Welcome to my Simplifying vSphere series, where I'm covering multiple topics related to vSphere, ESXi setup, vCenter setup, creating VMs, and some networking. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a VM from scratch. Should take around 5 minutes, maybe less, maybe more, depending on your configuration. All right, to start, you will need to navigate to the DNS name or IP address of vCenter. In my case, I'm running vCenter 7, so I don't have the web client option. I only have the vSphere client, which is HTML5. You may see two options here, the Flash client and the HTML5 client. You can do this on the Flash client as well. It just looks a little different, but the naming should be very similar. For me, I'm using the HTML5 client. On the login screen, we need to log in with an account that has rights to create virtual machines. I'm using the default administrator at vSphere.local account. After you log in, you'll see a screen that looks similar to this. On the left, you'll notice a Host and Clusters tab, a VMs and Templates tab, a Storage tab, and a Networking tab. The Host and Clusters tab should be selected by default, and that's okay for this demonstration. This will show you your clusters as well as your ESXi host that you have joined to this vCenter. In my case, I have one host in my home lab, so I'm going to right-click on that host and select New Virtual Machine. You should see the New Virtual Machine wizard. You will select a creation type. We are using the Create a New Virtual Machine option, as I will cover templates in a later video. Select Next. On this screen, specify the virtual machine name. This is the name in vCenter and is not the DNS name of the VM. You will actually set that inside the operating system. However, it is best practice to make this name match the DNS name of the VM so you don't get them confused. You don't have to do that, but it's something that you see most of the time. I'm going to call this VM Demo 1 and store it in the root. If you had folders configured for, say, dev, test, or prod, you could store this VM in the appropriate place. In my case, I'm going to store this VM in the root data center instead of putting it inside of a folder. On the Select Compute Resource page, you'll need to select the compute resource for your virtual machine. This will either be an ESXi host. If you're running this in a lab, you may have one or two of those. If you have a enterprise environment, you may have a cluster of hosts, and if DRS is running on those, it's something we'll cover later. DRS will put the VM on the best host for the cluster. In my case, again, I only have one host, so I'm going to place it there. On the storage page, you'll see the VMFS data stores that are available to put your VM on. In my case, I only have one data store available because I only have one hard drive in this host. You may have a storage array that has several LUNs available to your host. In my case, I'm going to select this one. Under compatibility, this sets your virtual machine hardware. This hardware has to match your host, and in my case, my host is 6.7, so that's why it defaulted to 6.7 and later. I'm going to leave this alone. The only time you should change it is if you have a specific reason to change it. You need to make a VM use older hardware versions, etc. If you are running 7.0, you can run 7.0 or later. I'm running 6.7, so I need to run 6.7 or later. Basically, you should leave this at default unless there's a specific reason to change it. On the Select a Guest OS section, you will choose the operating system family as well as the guest OS version. This helps vCenter know which version of VMware tools to present to your VM so that when you install it, you get the correct installer package instead of a Linux for Windows or Windows for Linux. So I'm going to set this for Windows, and Server 2019 is not in this version yet, so I will select 2016 even though I'm going to install 2019. It is close enough that it will not cause a problem. Under the virtual machine hardware section, this is where you'll set the vCPUs and memory of your VM. For this VM, I'm going to use 2 vCPUs as well as 4 gigs of memory and a 40 gigabyte hard drive. There is a small change we need to make on the networking tab since we did create this VM from scratch. It's not a template. And you'll want to set this from the E1000E over to the VMXNet 3 adapter types so that when you install VMware tools, this driver will be installed and the VM will perform much better than if you were using the E1000E. You will also want to set this to your production network or whichever network is appropriate for this VM. From there, you will hit next. This gives you a summary of what you are creating, and we will hit finish. You'll notice at the bottom under the recent task pane, create virtual machine task is running and completed. And if you look under your host, you will see the virtual machine that you created listed there. It's powered off at this point, and we will need to install the operating system to be able to use it. And that is what we will do in the next video. Thanks for watching.